Welcome to this week's Foundation Friday. I am joined today by Dan Levin, president of Liventus, and we're going to talk about EBRP and change for Charley. Thank you for joining me, Dan.
Thanks for having me, Jesse.
No, it's great to have you on here. And, you've educated me on this change for Charley that you started a few years back, and I'm looking to kind of share your story with the rest of the equipment finance community. So I'll just kind of start right off here. What is EBRP and how did this whole thing come to be?
So EBRP is EBRP is a charity. It stands for the EB Research Partnership, and it's a unique charity in that they have a venture philanthropy model, which means that for the money that they're raising and the money they're granting out to research, they typically have a stake in that. So if that research becomes successful, it's creating more donations from the profits of whatever may happen. So it's that model is very cool, and I learned about it several years ago. You want me to talk about how I came about?
No, I mean that's an interesting model. I've never heard of that before. So ideally, yeah, like what is like EBRP stand for? I mean, you already told that, but yeah.
So I didn't start EBRP. EBRP has been around for a while, and let's see. So epidermolysis bullosa is a terrible diabolical disease that impacts children and quite often terminal, or certainly doesn't allow for a long or solid quality of life. And it's essentially your skin's lacking a protein to bind itself together. So just imagine having to be wrapped up in bandages all day, because if your skin is touched in any kind of way, it scabs, right? And if you think it sounds bad, it's actually 100 times worse than what I'm describing. You can Google it and go down a pretty dark hole. But I learned about the charity about 10 years ago when, just being charitable like anyone else, making some donations throughout the year. And it was always important to me to have a charity that really had a purpose where the money was going, and it wasn't going to big administrative fees, and it was going towards finding the cure for something. And this happens to impact children, and there's a big genetic component, and those two things are very near and dear to my heart. And the charity needed a voice, right? This was pretty unheard of disease. And I learned about it at a Pearl Jam concert 10 years ago. I'm a big Pearl Jam fan, and Eddie Vedder happens to be a board member of EBRP. And he's talking about it at a charity. And, as invested as I was into the concert, I found myself going on my phone and just Googling this and really being completely impacted, where I went and made a donation that night. And I continued to make donations, just small donations here and there when I could. And several years later, I had a really close friend of mine who was giving a lot of money to a charity, and she asked my advice of what charity I thought she should give to. And I told her the same kind of things that I just told you. I said, well, when I look to a charity, I'm looking at these factors, right? Where the CEO of the charity is not making $1 million a year for running the charity, and the money is going to a solid purpose. And this particular one was near and dear to my heart, and she loved it. And she said, great. And we the more we were talking, she said, hey, maybe we should use the money that she was going to donate as an event fund, so that we can turn that money into multiples of it, right? They're a big event. And so we both kind of agreed that was a great idea. I think it could have been my idea, but we had to convince a couple other people of that idea. And to do that, I kind of, a couple of weeks later, nothing was really happening. And so I just picked up the phone and I called the charity. And EBRP was started by a couple who, there's actually, I won't give you the whole history because I think there's a couple, they're much better to tell you how it started, but one of the founding members has a child with epidermolysis bullosa, and she actually picked up the phone when I called the charity and I said, hey, I'm Dan Levin, I want to throw an event for you. And she's like, who are you and why are you calling? Because this type of thing doesn't really happen, especially for something that was at the time really unknown. And I told her a little bit about our story, and it kind of drove her to tears. And she said that there was actually a family around the corner from where I lived who was trying to launch an event in Chicago as it was, and needed and couldn't get it off the ground, right? And I said, really? She said, would you be open to meeting them? And I said, of course. Literally, so I'm in a suburb called Northbrook, Illinois, which is 20 minutes north of the city of Chicago, and this family is in Highland Park, which is the next town over. And unfortunately, a lot of people will know Highland Park from some unfortunate news over the last summer. But we got in touch with that family, and I think I called the charity on a Thursday, and we were at this family's house on the Saturday, 2 days later, and sweetest people in the world, and they open their door and they're like, who are these weird people that are just wanting to throw this event? And we really hit it off, and to this day they're one of our best friends, and we're incredibly close and very fortunate to have met each other. And so together that weekend, we started talking about what an event could look like. And their daughter's name is Charley. And she's a year younger than my daughter. And she has epidermolysis bullosa. And, we're seeing firsthand at that point, really how I don't have the vocabulary to describe how awful this disease is. And we really worked hard and launched an event called Change for Charley. And it just so happens that Charley's father, Mike, went to college with Scott Van Pelt, who's a big ESPN sports announcer, and Scott was gracious enough to come in and MC this event that we put together, and we had a super successful first event several years ago, and raised, I think, somewhere around $300 thousand for the charity that one night. And then we did it again about 16 or 18 months later and raised over twice that. And so over two events pre-COVID, we've done about $1 million, which was remarkable. And some of the coolest stuff about where this money's going outside of the venture philanthropy model is you're really starting to see some progress being made. Okay. And if today's science can, I'm going to get choked up. If today's science can solve for genetic issues, that's a major breakthrough. So when you think about a lot of genetic disorders, it could be sky's the limit. So it's not just EB that some of this money could be going to. The science and the funding and the research around how to potentially correct a genetic issue could be at play here, and that's quite remarkable. So meeting people with EB has had a tremendous impact on my life. Meeting the Kaufs, some of our best friends, it has definitely had an impact on our life. And I think that this is a incredible charity. If people are looking to donate to anything, check this out, because they need your help, and it's just going to research. And I think there's only two main charities for EB, also referred to as butterfly skin, if you guys ever have heard that term. But there's another charity that goes to helping the families who are impacted by this. A lot of them don't have the proper insurance. Bandages. Just think about this for a second. I think the number is, for bandages alone in 1 year, is like $350,000. So there's a lot of people that need a lot of help. That's actually would be a different EB charity.
Sure.
But this one is just, let's drive home a cure. Let's figure out a cure. Let's get to that cure. Let's research everything we got to research. Let's fund the right clinical trials. Let's fund the right research and solve this genetic disease. So the more you dig, the more you realize that it still needs a lot of help, and it's a torturous, diabolical, miserable disease. So
no, thank you. I remember the first time you and I were talking about it, I was like, it's almost too painful to even discuss. But if you're not discussing it, then how can you actually get to the root cause of it? So
yeah, there's definitely that. But once you start research, just research. I mean, for any parent to just think about it, and imagine the the happiest days of your life are supposed to be when you have a kid, right? And imagine what these families go through, and when they learn about this disease that they've never heard of, that is going to impact them and their kid for the rest of their life. And the rest of that life might be a week, a day, it might be 30 years. But yeah, sure. What are some other questions?
No, I mean, you hit pretty much everything I touched base on. I guess my other question I have for you, Dan, is when people watch this, what can they do to make a difference for one of these charitable organizations? I'm not even going to try to pronounce the
so changeforcharley.org. So Charley spelled CHRLEY. Changeforcharley.org is a great place to start. You can go to ebresearch.org to donate there. Change for Charley. Everything you donate to Change for Charley goes right to EBRP. So yeah, I mean, I encourage everyone to get involved, and there's been a lot of progress in the last 10 years, which is cool. And I imagine where the next 10 years will bring us.
Sure. And we'll have to make sure we have an event coming up in September, in downtown Chicago. So whether yourself or maybe Mike wants to come and talk about this, we could look to, bring this up at that event too.
Yeah, we're and we haven't been able to get an event together post-COVID, but now that people are starting to get out of their houses and probably would be more open to it. If we don't do an event in 2023 and wait till 2024, that'd be a great opportunity to get in front of some people and explain some more. So thank you.
No problem, Dan. Well, I appreciate your time today, sir. And we'll be talking soon. Have a good day.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.